5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester
1,
United have
0.
reached the promised land.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, especially if your name is Carlo Ancelotti. But good morning to the community. I'm Sam. You know who I am. Here in United People's TV, we're live and direct, 10:03. Look at that. That rhymed, actually. Every Monday to Friday with the live show, bringing you bang up to date, hopefully, with all the latest Manchester United news. And we're going to be speaking about, again, the takeover will be a conversation we have every single day until we have been sold. I'll be speaking about that, the latest from Sky Sports, on what the next steps of this process are, on what the Raine Group need to do, on what the next things that are going to happen with the Qatari bid, the Thani bid, and also with Jim Ratcliffe's bid and any other bid. And we're going to be starting to preview the Barcelona game today. It's a big one on Thursday. The excitement's really starting to build. And yeah, we'll be speaking through all the latest news. A certain Sir Alex Ferguson sat down for dinner with Erik Ten Hag yesterday. We'll speak about that. We'll speak. There's lots and lots. There's too many things. I've always got. That's why it takes me so long to plan these shows every morning, because there really are so many different talking points every single day. But hey, it's why we love Manchester United, right? Things are always constantly moving forward. Let's see who's down there in the comments. Good morning to the community everywhere. Ines, good morning to you. Mo Salad. Svinor, how you doing? Teresa, Akil, Vicky, good morning to you. Liam, Niall McCarthy, Ian Cartwright on Facebook, good morning there. Peter, we've got T, we've got Ant, Carl, Josh, Paula, all the regulars down there. Fred, I can see you there too. Alex, I'm sure Gungshi's hiding in there somewhere. I can't see his name. But morning, everyone. I'm not sure, right? Did anybody see something happen? Like something happened on TV last night? Like, I don't know. I was just sitting there watching it. And I loved it. And yeah, I'm going to be starting the show with this. Why not? If you can't enjoy and revel in the downfall of your rivals, then why are you watching football? It's part and parcel of it. Liverpool 2-0 up yesterday. We're back. We're back. Nah. Damn it. It's 5-2. And it was a collapse of all collapses. The one thing I would say straight away is Real Madrid. Man, Real Madrid have just... There's something different about Real Madrid, isn't there? You can never write them out. You absolutely cannot write them off in any situation. 2-0 down, it looked... You were like, wow. Certainly after that mistake from Courtois, literally bobbling off his knee. Ridiculous mistake from him. But then Alisson basically played top trumps in who was the worst goalkeeper that day, after he made a calamitous error. And then Vinicius scored his second of the game. But Real Madrid, Ferdinand, you're saying it's the Ancelotti factor. It is, but I'm looking at that team. Vinicius Jr. is so fast. It's ridiculous. Valverde, I love Valverde. Question in the comments, right? If there was one player you could sign from Real Madrid, who would you take? Only one. It's a hard question, that. Got so many good players. But Valverde, for me, stands out. And Vinicius Jr., for me, stands out. I would probably say one of those two. But it was just, I mean, it was peak Champions League football, right? In terms of the excitement of it, what you're watching with that game last night is pretty much, I imagine, that's why they got rid of away goals, right? So they could allow games like that to happen, change the course of the game. Liverpool, prior to that, if they went into that game there last night and they knew that they need to keep a clean sheet to avoid Real Madrid getting away goals, well, they probably would have played very differently. And I suppose it made for a far more entertaining game of football. I do miss the away goals rule. Let me see what you're saying down here. Valverde, if not Vinicius. Camavinga, you're saying, could easily replace Casemiro. Let's not talk about... They definitely missed Casemiro for those first two goals. Vinicius Jr., Valverde, Camavinga. Quite a few of you saying Camavinga. A couple of you saying Tchouaméni down there. Or I saw your one. I don't know. They're just such a good team. They really, really are. And yeah, it's such a shame. Like, no one likes to see it happen, really. And the amount of times that I've been able to use this, I tell you what I need to do. If there's any like graphic designers that can help me with just this one idea, I'd like to make an A2 print to go up there that includes that quote. Because if I was to use this one, it's way too blurry. I can't get that done properly. If anybody's up for it, just making one design that I can then get printed onto an A2, because I've used it so many times this season. And remember when Erik Ten Hag said it in his first, was it his first press conference? One of his first press conferences. Everyone was like, oh, okay. Man, yeah, what's happened since then has just been wild. From United's perspective of recovery after Brighton and Brentford and just Liverpool's downfall. And this is something that right? This is what, in my opinion, has always pissed off United fans with the Liverpool talk and conversation, right? Oh, this is the greatest Premier League team ever. It's called recency bias. And what that means is what you're witnessing now, because it's at the front of your mind, you think it's the best ever. The greatest Liverpool team of all time. One of the greatest Premier League teams of all time. It's like, hold up here. United have won 3 Premier League titles in a row twice. And this Liverpool team that had 1 title, oh yeah, City was so good. So it doesn't matter. You lost it to City both times. It's that's what's annoyed United fans so much about trying to compare that Liverpool team, which is completely and utterly collapsing in front of our eyes, to that team that Fergie had in those 3, 2007, 2010. They're incomparable. Incomparable. And someone sent me this on Twitter yesterday. FP, I think it was you, FPO1. And it made me laugh. It made me absolutely, I'll be honest. I had to bring that on the stream this morning. Because as I said, if you can't laugh at your rivals after they get spanked 5-2 after being 2-0 up, then yeah, as I said, you're kind of in the wrong game. It just really, really made me laugh. I'm looking forward to seeing what Graham Souness says about that. I think Graham Souness is not going to be a happy bunny. I wonder if I don't know. It would be. It's just hilarious. Ashlyn, wow. Thank you very much, Ash. Gifting 10 memberships to Liverpool because they need to buy a whole new team. As I said, if you can't laugh at the downfall of your rivals, man, come on. Yes, you can. You really, really can. Omar, you're saying I've been harping on about this recency bias since day one, especially with those thinking Pep is the greatest of all time in the Premier League. Hey, look, looking back, Pep's won 4 in the last 5. He's setting records over a long period of time. Pep Guardiola is one of the best to have ever managed in the Premier League. But you know who is the best? That man there who sat down for dinner with Erik Ten Hag yesterday. Sir Alex Ferguson and Erik Ten Hag. Sod knows who's stalking in the background. Maybe someone was just out at a restaurant and goes, who's that? Fucking hell, who's that? That's Fergie. I swear that's Fergie. Yeah, it's Fergie. And Ten Hag took a picture. Penny for the thoughts. Penny for his thoughts. Like, imagine being a fly on the wall for that conversation. I reckon at some point, Fergie turns to him and goes, "He's in the score." But do you reckon Fergie's got BT Sport on his phone? Don't reckon he does. Or maybe he does. Maybe just like all of us, just sitting there, Sky Sports on his mobile, bit of BT Sport. Sod knows. But it's a cool little photo, isn't it? It's a cool photo seeing that. Teresa, I was very tempted to push that out on Twitter, but I imagine that video is going to get slapped down for copyright. So I've got to be careful about the certain videos that I do share. But Carragher, the reaction videos from him, he was not a happy bunny. Was it where is it? He's on Paramount. I think he's on with Micah Richards and Thierry Henry. Sid Gaming, you're saying, Sam, off topic, but do you know who the Glazers were, who the owners were before the Glazers, and the reason they left the owners before the Glazers? It was split. It was down to do with Martin Edwards, and it was JP McManus and Magnier, and that was after the Murdoch takeover didn't happen. Well, is that around right? I'm confusing myself here with the histories, but basically the Glazers systematically bought up small amounts of shares at Manchester United, and it was that's where the if you've not read into it, the Rock of Gibraltar story, Fergie having part ownership with a horse with Magnier and McManus, I think it was, and they fell out. Once their relationship fell out, Magnier and McManus, who both were substantial shareholders in Manchester United, they then sold those shares off to the Glazers. That's how they got to a certain percentage. And once I think it was a 75% threshold, they then had to put in an obligatory offer to buy the rest of them. I think that's what's happened. But that's off the top of my head. But let's move on to talking about this for a little bit, right? I can't wait for this game tomorrow. And I imagine that's going to be a very decent part of the conversation that Erik's having with Sir Alex there. And this game tomorrow night, look, we've seen from a neutral perspective, that was an absolutely wonderful game of football last night. For us as United fans, we can all point and laugh at Liverpool. And for United fans, we can look at that and go, what do you expect from this game tomorrow? I'm going to be heading towards the headline of the show in about 5-10 minutes or so. And we'll speak about the latest on the updates of the takeover. But let's have a little conversation here about the game against Barcelona. And we'll speak about it tomorrow in more detail after my starting 11, which is going out at lunchtime today. We've got the press conference. There'll be lots more we can talk about. But I tell you what, I'm not sure whether I expect it to be as full tilt as it was between Liverpool and Real Madrid. But I kind of think it's going to be another full throttle game of football, won't it? It won't be a game where Barcelona sit back and try and soak up and hit on the counter. It won't be a game where Manchester United give Barcelona too much space in the first opening 10-15 minutes. Old Trafford really will be bouncing for this game. As I said, the Liverpool game that I went to this season, and you've heard it in the rest of them, from the Arsenal to City, Old Trafford's starting to become a little bit more intimidating again. We lost that intimidation, didn't we? And teams came to Old Trafford, whether it was Norwich, whether it was West Brom, whether it was Sunderland, so many different teams. Middlesbrough came to Old Trafford, and actually, you know what? We might be able to get a result here. Feels like that's changing somewhat. Now, Barcelona, did you see this photo yesterday? This absolutely cracked me up. Very, very inconspicuous. These are the 8 analysts that were all sat in the gods at the Nou Camp watching that game last week. And we all know full well that Erik ten Hag is a meticulous manager. And I mean that as a compliment. He's somebody who likes having everything laid out in front of him, likes it all done on time, lots of data, lots of different angles, all taken on board. And I imagine he got plenty of information with those 8 analysts. The Barcelona travelling squad is out. And as quite a few of you are saying down in the comments, Declan, let me know where you're watching from, dude. I'll try and give you a shout out. Busquets is back in the team. There he is there. Lewandowski's there, obviously. There's no Pedri. There's no Gavi. And they are 2 massive misses for that Barcelona team. Does that give United an advantage? I mean, on paper, yes. No doubt the other players will probably be able to stand up to it. But this game against Barcelona tomorrow, the success or the failure of our season doesn't hinge on the result of this game. But 3 days before Ten Hag's first cup final, it would be a little bit of a sucker punch to go out to Barcelona, especially after what we did in the first leg. The tougher 50% of this tie is out the way. We went to the Nou Camp. We got a result. We stayed in the game. We were winning. 2-2. Thrilling game. All we've got to do now, let's say it's simple that, all we've got to do is beat Barcelona at Old Trafford. Easier said than done, of course. But given that we've won, I believe now, 14 out of our last 15 games at Old Trafford, you have to imagine that this United team, Ten Hag, all the players, are just flowing with confidence. Spence, really good comment there. I was actually going to do a tweet about this after I saw it. Xavi calling Bruno the Portuguese guy. I imagine Bruno seeing that. He's just going to roll his sleeves up. He's going, I took that personally. Bruno with 2 assists in his last game for United against Leicester at the weekend. And Bruno, who I've spoken about this. It's honestly one of the strangest things this season I've seen is the abuse that's happened towards Bruno Fernandes. I've never got along with it. I've never agreed with it. I've never understood it. And his performances in this, probably since the World Cup, have just been getting better and better and better. He's a fundamental part of this team now. Will he start on the right wing? Will he start in the number 10 position? I'm going to have my starting 11 out. Probably around about 12 o'clock today. A little bit, hopefully, bang on time. But I will leave the rest of this conversation today for that video going out at lunch. So make sure you do. Please check that out. And then we'll speak about it properly tomorrow in Thursday morning's live stream. Let's move on to the headline of the show. And let's move on to having a conversation around the takeover, the latest on the Thani bid from Qatar, and also on Jim Ratcliffe's bid with INEOS. All right. And then now there's a video I did yesterday, right? And that was this one. And I ran through what I personally feel is my biggest problem with this takeover. And it's not the arguments that you can have around a Qatari bid and the positives and the negatives. And look, again, if I can take a second to sort of step back here and say, if a United fan speaks out and says they have concerns about a Qatari bid, it's not a point of abusing someone, because there should be concerns. That you should have concerns. I'm more I'd be more worried if you didn't. In the same way that you should have concerns about the Jim Ratcliffe bid. Having concerns about either owners does not mean any mad. I think I've told you about this, and it pissed me off massively. All these people who are trying to label me as racist or xenophobic simply because I'm trying to have these open conversations. And I said that when you start calling people that, when it doesn't apply, then you take away from those who really are suffering racist and xenophobic abuse, because it dilutes the power of saying that. And I defended myself in that sense a little bit last week. But for me, the biggest problem when it comes to I don't think there is a perfect new owner. As kind of Vicky is saying down there in the comments, I don't think there will be a perfect new owner. But what we absolutely have to do is make sure that the Glazers do not stay on. That's the video I addressed yesterday. It's something I really feel strongly about, and something I'm sure all of you feel strongly about. After probably the last 4 or 5 days and the reports that have been coming out around hedge funds, around the Elliott Group, around other investors that could be offering the Glazers a way out. Now, an interesting development that's happened in the last 24 hours is to do with the share price of Manchester United, right? Wall Street, the whole of the market, the whole of the New York Stock Exchange yesterday dropped by 2%. But Manchester United's share price dropped by 12%. Now, you don't have to be that good at maths. That's 6 times as much as the market average. Dropped by nearly just under $3.50, 12.69% of its total value, over $500 million. Now, of course, there's plenty of explanations for that. First and foremost, yes, it's part of a reflection of a wider downturn in the market that happened yesterday. But 6 times the size, that is a massive drop compared to the overall pattern of the market yesterday. You can't confidently say that that's absolutely to do with the Glazers, but what we can say is that's a little bit of a correction, because we all know that the price of Manchester United, it went to an inflated high because of the potential of a Qatari takeover. So that coming down a little bit is partly to do with that correcting itself, saying, right, well, okay, that buzz has kind of died down a little bit, so it's going to dip a little bit more. But also, it's pretty well timed in terms of what's happened in the last week with the Glazers. And this is what I mean about them being shit businessmen. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Funny fact, I got an entire video demonetized because I used that word. I'm going to try, here on United People's TV, I'm going to try and swear a little bit less, because I think YouTube are hotting up on it, or everyone just hotting up on it. I thought you could say that word, but apparently you can't. So I'm going to try and be more polite on here. But I've always said that the Glazers are bad businessmen. I've said that just because they've held the most golden egg of assets, it doesn't mean they're good businessmen. I don't think they are. Failing mall business in America and lots and lots of other things. I just found this interesting, right? Alex, as I said, I think it's partly, at least in part, a correction across the average, as I said, of the last 12 months, and bringing down from that artificial high created by the Qatari takeover. But the Glazers surely know that there is no way out of this for them where they stay at the club and it's some sort of sustainable ownership. It's just not. That doesn't exist. That they're in fantasy land if that is the case. The protests will be constant. Absolutely constant. I'm going to go down here. John, man, I think they're a little bit busy doing their own things right now. Let me see what you're saying down there. Fan ownership is a pipe dream. When you're looking at everything that goes on in Germany with their 50+1, it will be amazing to see that come over into England. But that's a completely different ownership structure and model. And the Premier League is, I think I've said this before, I'll say it again. The Premier League has allowed this current environment to exist. They invited Abramovich in you come. They invited Abu Dhabi in. Yeah, go on then, in you come. Both of you passed the fit and proper owners test. And all the other foreign owners who have followed. Stan Kroenke at Arsenal. And there are too many. Do you remember, was it Venky's at Blackburn? Was that in, I think that was in the Premier League. That was weird. There are so many different foreign owners that have come into the England. Some have worked, some haven't worked. But they've created this environment where it has become a billionaire's playground and football has massively changed. So the idea of going from that point back towards a fan ownership and 50+1, maybe it is a pipe dream. And I probably would hesitate to say it's because of where the Premier League has been taken. That's why they're bringing out the white paper tomorrow. We spoke about that in a bit of detail. That's where they're going to speak about the independent regulator. Effectively, it's like closing the door after the horse has bolted, right? That means that not that I'm saying it's pointless bringing in an independent regulator now. So many people have got away with so much for so long, and then you're going to bring it out on top? Should have had that at the very start. It's reactive rather than proactive governing, right? Some of the damage that has been done now is going to be irreparable. It can't walk backwards. It's not to say that you shouldn't ever do anything. You say, well, we didn't do it at the start. Well, there's no point doing it now. There is a point to doing it now. But it will definitely affect this Manchester United takeover. That's why I've spoken about the differences and the nuances between the two bids, with the Qatari bid focusing on bringing United back to the former glory, all this investment, XYZ, debt-free, and the Ratcliffe bid more towards we're about to head into a new period of football governance. We want to be leading in that sense. I don't know whether it's because INEOS knows something about this white paper. I don't know. It's an interesting one. But as I said, tomorrow, we'll know a bit more information about that. It might have to be the lunchtime video tomorrow before the Barcelona game. Let's move on to the update here from Sky on what the next steps of the process are. The two rival bidders for Manchester United would both run the club not for profit if they succeed in buying it from the Glazer family. Sheikh, Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani and Sir Jim Ratcliffe made indicative offers to buy United before last Friday's soft deadline. Investment bank Raine Group are now assessing the offers they have received before deciding with the Glazers who, if anyone, should be given access to detailed financial information about the club. That would allow the bidders to carry out due diligence before making a formal offer. Now, I think, well, you would correctly say, Sam, haven't they already had access to the data room? You know, how much more access do they need before they make a formal? That's a form. A firm and formal offer is a formal offer, apparently. New word. And yeah, they have had access. Obviously, they probably had access to the first door of the safe. They haven't had access to the second door. And that presumably is what that is. So at this point in time, according to Sky Sports and Kavi Solihull, the Raine Group and the Glazers are going to be in direct conversation over what the next steps are and whether or not the Qatari bid with Al Thani and whether or not Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS, whether those two get access to the next level. They could turn around, by the sound of it there, they could turn around and say, nah, you can't do it. They could. I don't think they would, but technically they could. And this part down here is interesting, and I don't think this is going to happen. If the Glazers do decide to sell, the process is expected to be complete. Isn't it mad of the changing dates on that story? Sky Sports now saying hopefully before the transfer window opens in June. We know full well that the Raine Group are aiming for full sale by the end of Q1. That's the end of March. That's in 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks. Do you think it'll be done by then? Let's do that as a poll, actually, because I think this would be a good one. Do you think do you think United will be sold by the end of March? Yes or no? Right. Here we go. I'll be interested to know where you stand on that. For me, looking at that, it's quite a short deadline. It's quite a short deadline, Dave. I'm adding thermal to my dictionary. Hey, look, there's got to be new words added to the dictionary every single year. Right there. Firm and formal. Thermal. Not thermal. Thermal. Thermal thermals? What are they? Anyway, we're getting off we're getting off piste here. When have INEOS specifically stated they would not run United for profit? I don't recall that. Yeah, I did kind of brush over that bit at the start. That's quite an important part of this whole thing here. The idea there that INEOS, a multinational billion-dollar company with revenues in excess of 40 to 50 billion per year, they would spend between 4 and 7 billion and they wouldn't expect to make a profit. It doesn't really match up, given how INEOS is a business, right? The Qatari one, you could understand the conversation around it because money is no real object to that Qatari bid. If we're looking at what I know that they're not directly linked, but the Qatar Investment Authority, they're a sovereign wealth fund representing around about $450 billion worth of investments. Now, this is different because the bid coming for Manchester United from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani is more based on his father's actual wealth rather than the state's wealth. Of course, it doesn't take too long for us to make the links, to see where the links exist between the Qatari state and that bid. And I'm not trying to suggest that there is complete separation, but Qatar have the utter confidence that there is enough separation. This is James Ducky yesterday saying, look, the Qatari bid has utter confidence, complete and utter confidence that they will pass that test, that Premier League test. They will be able to own Manchester United and own PSG and it not break any UEFA rules. That's been the word since day one. And we've mentioned it quite a few times here together. We all said, look, there is no way that bid would have gone in from Qatar if they didn't already have that confidence that they would breeze through those rules. I'm going to go over here and read a few of your comments on this. Qatar all the way. We don't need another Gizo. Says it can say the same about Qatar, though. They're investing in sports, so their economy is less dependent on oil. I did remember his name. I haven't even got it written on the wall. Go me. INEOS don't need profits from United. They get loads from the other businesses. Look, I know they don't need profits, but I've said this to you before. I don't know. In fact, I don't actually know this. And maybe this is an interesting thing to do a little bit of research into because I mentioned this yesterday. What is the ownership structure of INEOS? Because we know that Jim Ratcliffe is the owner. Well, does he own 100% of the business? Don't think he does. He would have presumably, again, I'm making presumptions here. I need to actually look at the structure of it. But I'm going to guess that there are shareholders inside that INEOS board. That there are people that Jim Ratcliffe will have to present to. Just as much as he's having to present to Manchester United to try and buy Manchester United, I imagine that he has to present to INEOS about this idea of investing in Manchester United. And I don't think that the idea that they're all going to be sitting there as shareholders of INEOS going, hold on, so you want to invest 4 to 7 billion in Manchester United, but you don't want any profit. I don't think that that doesn't really tie up there. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. But I need to do a little bit of research into that. We should look at them both unbiased, says Brian. The situation is splitting the fan base apart. Hey, Brian, man, this is exactly what happened back in the day, right? When Murdoch and Sky tried to buy Manchester United. I was reading the Athletic article and it sort of refreshed my memory. It was back after Arsenal won the double and United fans were, well, we weren't in a good place as a football club. And lots of United fans wanted that money to come in from Sky, from Murdoch, to get United back to the top. Lots of United fans argued against it and lobbied against it. And I believe it got blocked because there was a monopolies and merger that said that Sky and Murdoch owning Manchester United would have been a conflict of interest in terms of their other businesses. So it was blocked. Now, there will, of course, and that there is opposition towards a Qatari bid, specifically from those who have human rights at the forefront of their mind. And for a lot of people, that's the right way to be. And maybe for all of us, we should also have that. And that's why I've got an interview lined up. I won't tell you who with. I've got an interview lined up to discuss that side of things. Because even if I get dogs abuse, you shouldn't get dogs abuse for doing it. You should be taking a step back and speaking. And I will probably try and do the same thing from an INEOS perspective, because I know environmentalists have got issues with the idea that INEOS want to be doing fracking. Google what fracking is. It's a bit of a boring conversation, but it's a different way of drilling for oil, which doesn't exactly serve the environment very well. I don't know how to describe it all, really. It's there is no perfect owner, and I've said that pretty much since day one. And the more that has sort of come out about that, full well, everybody can remember when the Jim Ratcliffe interest in Manchester United first came out. I was absolutely buzzing. I've said it. It was always my dream owner. It feels like, and it probably will only be a dream. The idea of someone born 10 miles from Old Trafford. Yes, he's got a Chelsea season ticket. Yes, he lives in London. Yes, he's lost some of his roots, but that's what happens when you're a successful businessman. A lot of the time, it can take you away from that roots, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he was born 10 miles from Old Trafford. And he was a Manchester United fan as a kid. And I looked at it and went, yeah, I could see that. I called it a Disney ownership. And maybe it always was. Maybe it was just based in fantasy, because the more that's come out around this Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid with the debt refinancing, and now we've got the majority takeover rather than a full takeover. It's I've got concerns about it, just like I've got concerns about the Qatari bid. And there's still so much more and so many more conversations we all need to have as a fan base. There's more deeper diving that needs to happen. I'm going to be speaking. Big up to Tom if you're watching still. I reached out last week and I said, you know what? I'd love to have some people on board. Josh, too, you've reached out as well. I'd love to have a few of you on board from the community who can help me with research, because I want to be doing these sorts of videos, because it's important that we as a fan base do it, because maybe these conversations aren't kind of existing else out there, and they need to be. And we're going to be doing a deeper dive into the Qatari ownership of PSG. Like, what happened when they took over PSG in 2011? What happened in the first few years? Who was sacked? How much did they spend? Did they have immediate results? Did they have to reassess and sack and move forward? It's important for us to understand how the Qatari ownership of PSG happened and how that could be linked back to Manchester United. Are there parallels you can draw between the two? I've already done one of those on Jim Ratcliffe and Nice. For anybody who's asking about that, I've already done that. That's back in the day. And there's a lot more that could be done. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing. So big up to Tom, big up to Josh, big up to anybody else. Alex, I just saw you there saying that you could help. Reach out to me. It's there's so many things going on at this moment in time. There really, really are. I saw this yesterday as well. And this is worth a little snippet of a conversation. Rob Harris, I think he writes for PA. Is it PA? Sky News. About the deepening Qatar and Britain relations amid a potential buyout of Manchester United by a Qatari investor with 45 billion pounds worth of Qatari investment currently inside the UK economy. And that was just an announcement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Qatar about the latest development in that partnership. And I suppose investment in a football club, investment in a country and ownership of a football club, are they completely different things? Yeah, I think they are different things. Man, this is, I wouldn't say the United, am I right or am I wrong about this? About whether or not the United fan base is split. I don't think it's split down the middle, but there is division. I think that would probably be the fairest way to summarize it. And my standpoint was always 100% in the Jim Ratcliffe corner. And I have to admit that slowly that's being chipped away. The 100% slowly is being chipped away. Not to say that I'm here. I'm not going to be screaming, "We love Qataris" from the rooftop anytime soon. But I've always maintained that my standpoint would be what is best for Manchester United Football Club. And that will always be what drives my opinion. And that's why my opinion could change on this topic. And it's not because I'm flip-flopping. It's because I say this to a lot of people. It's called critical thinking. You might have your opinion on, I suppose this is something I learned from my history degree. You might have your one opinion that you're completely fixed on. But the more facts that are presented in front of you, the more in your head you go, right, okay, I might have to consider my standpoint here. And maybe by the end of it, after you've absorbed all that research, you can go, after taking everything into account, this is now what I think. And it might differ to what you are originally. Does that mean you're a flip-flop in your opinion? No. That might just mean that there's a lot of stuff you now know that you didn't know then. And therefore, your opinion can be changed and altered. That's called critical thinking. And it's a really important thing to do. So some people just literally flip-flop one game to the next. Oh, I want these, I want that. That's not to do with that. And that's not particularly helpful in any way, shape, or form. Waffling a little bit here. Yes, I know, but it's just such a difficult topic and conversation. I'm going to go down here and see a few of your contracts. Contracts? It's because it's because I just read that word. You ever do that? You're trying to have a conversation, then you're reading something and it just pops into the sentence. Verbal diarrhea. Sam, did you see the story about the FA terminating the contract with Hanover Communications? Yes, that was because previously the Premier League had worked with Hanover Communications, but because they were involved from a PR perspective in the bid statement going out, the Premier League has cut ties with them. It's kind of a smart play from the Premier League, distancing themselves from that sense just in case it goes through, because otherwise that could come back to hurt the Premier League. What were you saying? Chris, you're saying, I just want an owner that cares about the club. I think Qataris are the best owners. They won't care about the money as much as because they're already rich. Yeah, but again, Chris, you're not alone in that opinion at all. And I do think that I think that INEOS would care for the club. I know that Jim Ratcliffe would care for the club. I don't really think that's the definer between which bidder is better, which new owner is better. It's when you dive deeper into their bids and the structures of their bids. That's where you end up making your opinions on which one's best. I'll quickly move on to another talking point in the conversation. Otherwise, I think we're going to get stuck in this Qatari combo. Because once you get into this conversation, it's kind of hard to get out of it. Because it feels like there's arguments and justifications from pretty much every angle, right? If you really wanted to argue it and argue to defend a Qatari bid or to argue against a Qatari bid and vice versa with the Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS bid. That's what's making it a difficult conversation. And that is what is splitting the fan base. Because I think there are fair arguments and justifications from pretty much all angles. That's what's making it difficult. Now, something that I covered back on the 17th of January. Look at this. From the Telegraph, James Ducker saying Alejandro Garnacho is close to signing a new Manchester United deal. Yes, I know it's TalkSport. Yes, I know I shouldn't be bringing these up here, but it's not the only people that I've seen discussing the fact that Garnacho's on the verge of signing a new deal. And this one's come out, just before we went live, I think. So look, 9:06 a.m. saying that Garnacho is on the brink of signing a new contract. Let me see if the man himself, Fabrizio, has been tweeting about it. So look. What is it? Something he's doing for caught offside? Yeah, I think it's part of his caught offside blog. Anyway, it looks like Garnacho is on the verge of signing that new deal, and that is big news. Big news. Because we need him to sign that contract. His breakthrough has been phenomenal. The contract that he's on right now will be paltry in comparison to what he probably should be on to reflect his growing status inside this squad. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to him signing that deal, him sitting there arm in arm with Erik Ten Hag, signing pen to paper. Garnacho signs a new 5-year deal because everybody's going to be sniffing around him. We're at the point now where we've got some big old contract conversations coming up, haven't we? Garnacho, Marcus Rashford, David De Gea. I think Fred's got 1 extra year deal, and there's somebody else too. They're not the only ones. But Garnacho, him being on the brink of signing a new deal. So this was, as I said, this was just over a month ago that he was close to signing a new contract. It would indicate that these conversations have just been stretched out a little bit. Delo is another one. Luke Shaw's, and mate, we've got some big old conversation talking points to have as a fan base across the course of the next couple of months. But Garnacho, I'm going to be so happy when he signs that new contract. 18, the whole world at his feet. If he signs a 5-year deal at the end of it, he'll still only be 23. That's the way it works, right? Syed, you're saying, love the work you're doing. Oh, thank you very much, man. Love the work you're doing. Don't usually get to tune in live, but I'll always watch after. Keep up the great work. And I want to say a big shout out to Josh, who everyone say thank you very much to Josh, who every day helps me with the timestamps, because I know that the timestamps are what helps a lot. Not everybody can join in the live show, but a lot of people like the conversation. The timestamps that Josh does every day help. So if you don't watch it live, you can just click and see which part of the conversation you want to have. So big up to you, Josh, for doing that. And thank you very much, Syed. Stephen, wash your mouth out. Phil Jones' 31st birthday yesterday. So honestly, it's like some weird dystopian universe that you live in where Phil Jones is still playing for Manchester United. But that's not dystopian. It's just the truth. It's just, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. There's a good comment there around Garnacho, which I want to pull up. Linto, you're saying, did you notice the games he started for the games he was subbed? He was not good enough. I think it's a little bit harsh to say he's not good enough, but I've seen quite a few. Bal was mentioned also on the podcast a couple of times. He feels that right now, Garnacho is more suited to being a substitute and has a greater impact from the bench than he does as a starting 11 player. Would you agree with that? Because off the top of my head, if I'm thinking here, he came off the bench against Fulham for the winner. Man City, I think he came off the bench and obviously got the assist for Rashford towards the end. I think there's a conversation there to be had, because part of me would tend to agree with that, and certainly with the players that we've got at our disposal now. Jadon Sancho, he's got to be starting now. Like, Jadon Sancho's back. He's waited months for this. And this guy is a £75 million world-class signing that we made. As great as Garnacho is as a breakthrough, this is his breakthrough season. So I think versus Leeds as well, it's another good point. I think quite a few of you I think I tend to agree. I tend to agree that the Garnacho's impact from the bench versus Garnacho's impact as a starter, you're probably looking, maybe that's because you're working against slightly tired legs, slightly tired minds. And that's helping Garnacho at this point in time, because he's still a big problem. I say it's a big problem. It's not a problem, but it's a mindset thing, right? Garnacho, when it comes to these like ridiculously talented youngsters who break through from the academy teams into the first team, right? When Garnacho was in the academy team, he was the cream of the crop. He was the king, like swaggering around. Give me the ball. I got this. Did you watch his performance in the FA Youth Cup final? Came off the bench. He didn't pass to anyone. He didn't need to. Banged in 2 goals. Won the FA Youth Cup. Yes, please. Give me all the glory. The absolute best player in that environment. When you step up into the first team, instead of being the big fish in the small pond, you're the small fish in the big pond. And all of a sudden, instead of being that person that should always hold that ball at your feet, I'll do it all myself. It's not always the right choice. Not when you're surrounded by world-class players. Sometimes you've got to pass that ball off. And I think that is something that Garnacho is learning and developing. That's something that Ten Hag will have to coach into him because it's a mindset switch. And again, it's part of the reason why it's so difficult to go from academy football to first team football. The environments are completely and utterly different. But Garnacho, love the fact that he's on the verge of signing a new deal. And I tell you what, we all absolutely have to hope he signs that deal. Super chat there from Bancom. He's saying, no room for woke. I have a different opinion, so you punish me with the delay post. Well, that's a conversation for you down there. Well, I tell you what, that word woke. Man, I think I watched a random Vice documentary. It's such a... I'm not getting into conversations around that word on United People's TV, live on a show or any other shows. That is a minefield. Is an absolute minefield, and so many people misuse the word as well inside arguments. There's a super chat there from Garlic Bread Man. He's saying, Sam, can we circle back to the serious stuff later so we can laugh? Can we just laugh at Liverpool for a bit? Yeah, we could do that, actually. I'm not sure if you saw the game last night. And yes, I'm going to pull that bad boy up because it is, mate, it's hilarious. As I said, if you can't laugh at your rivals, then what are you doing? Then what are you doing, man? It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious what happened last night. Let me make sure I haven't missed any gifted memberships as well. I think I might have done. Vicky, you've been amazing this week. Thank you very much. You've gifted 5 more. I tell you what, you inspired me. Let me throw in 5 as well then. Why not? So many of you gift it to the community. I like to give to the community as well. So I'll throw in 5 now quickly. I think that's it. Make sure that's done properly. And there you go. There's 5 from me as well. Big up to you, Vicky. You inspired me for that one. Thank you very much. Anybody, last couple of minutes of the show, fire in your questions and I'll answer them. All right. Give Garnacho 2-3 seasons, mate. I don't think Garnacho needs 2 to 3 seasons, right? But I do think the majority of people are correct in saying that as it stands, with the options we've got up front, it feels like Garnacho's impact might be better from the bench in the last 30 minutes of a game than it is in the first 60 minutes of a game. And that's what happens when you've got a squad that good. If you can manage and balance that correctly, then you can have a threat for the full 90 minutes. And that's down to Erik Ten Hag and what he is doing with the team. My score presentation. Wow, I'll bring the score presentation up. No, actually, I'll bring my prediction out. That'll be the end of my starting 11 video, which will be going out. I'm aiming for 12 o'clock today, right? Delo or Wan-Bissaka at right back? That's a really good question. That really is a good question. Guti, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Don't forget to look at the poll, actually. It's a good point. That's what I went to do. Right, so we've got 1,300 votes. I love how engaged this is. Every day, it just puts a smile on my face. By the way, there's 1,300 of you that have voted, and there's only 450 of you who've liked the video. Drop a like on the video if you can. Take 2 seconds out. It does help the community. 58% of you think that United will be sold by the end of March. So majority of you at this moment in time, you think we will be sold by the end of March. And I tell you what, I hope you're right. I really, really hope you're right. I hope that end of Q1, that was always the aim. I hope we hit it because we need as much time as possible to plan for the summer. Alex, big up to you. Thank you very much, dude, for gifting 5 memberships there as well. HM, that's a new name. Let me bring you up here. No questions. Want to say what a great community and keep up the amazing work. Only wish I discovered sooner. Mate, welcome aboard. There's so many new names, so many new faces, and it's because right now we're going through one of the most significant periods of our football club's history. We're changing ownership. 20 years we've waited for this. We've got to get it right. And there's conversations that we have to have from every single angle. It's what I always do here on United People's TV. So I'm glad you're welcome. You're welcomed on board and looking forward to seeing you there. Omar, this might piss a lot of people off. Neither. I don't really do hot drinks. I don't really do caffeine that much. Like whenever you used to have vodka Red Bull out in a club, I was like, did. Too much. I don't think I deal very well with caffeine. Dark, you're saying, I heard from someone high up in the club that the roof does indeed need fixing. And can you call for some help because he's stuck up there? Mate, the roof, we ran through that video, didn't we? The Old Trafford redevelopment options, whether to redevelop, whether to expand, or whether to rebuild completely. And you all had your say. That roof at Manchester United is a major problem, not only for the leaking point of it, but also from the slanted roof at the top. You actually can't see everything. If you're at the top of the north, you can hardly see a beam. It's kind of a bit of an issue, really. Damon, cheers, dude. You've gifted 5 as well. Let me read those out. You've given one to Simon, Edward, Tobago, Comedy Zone, and Joshua, the lucky 5. Man, so many different names gifting memberships as well. I swear, honestly, YouTube are going to have to do a case study on this community. They really, really are. It is the best in the world. Jamie on Facebook, you're saying, I can't wait, legit can't wait for new owners and going head to head with City every year. It's very exciting. Well, for a lot of the time, United have had to sit by and watch what's going on in the Premier League for a long time. That won't happen under new owners. As and when that happens, though, we don't know. So the update there is a quick summary. There's a quick summary for everyone tuning in. The latest is that the Raine Group are now assessing these formalized, not these formalized bids, assessing these initial bids from Thani and Qatar and from Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. At that point, they'll decide whether to let them through into the really deep financials. That's where they look at all the contracts, all the conversations around new sponsors that are happening, all the projected cash flows. And at that point, the Thani formal bid will go through, the formal bid will go through, and so will Jim Ratcliffe's. And it's at that point whether the Glazers will decide to accept or reject them. And that's what we're waiting for, right? And you're saying, Sam, if we get deep pockets, do you think it will change Ten Hag's transfer priorities? I don't think it will. It might change the conversation. It won't change the priorities. It might change whether or not we can accelerate an extra signing rather than waiting another year. That's what it might do. It might bring forward plans that were maybe for the future window. You can say, well, actually, we've got enough now to bring this one forward into this window. So it might accelerate the plans. I don't think it will change the priorities. What else are you saying down there? City getting relegated to that. Could you imagine? Could you imagine that Erik Ten Hag says this? Oh, holds that up. Erik Ten Hag says this, and within 2 years, City are relegated. That would be the greatest call of all time. As I said, if there's any like cool graphic designers that can help me just make an A2 poster that I can bop up on the wall there, I think that would look really, really cool. But yeah, just reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter or my emails. They're all open. But thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. I love doing these shows every morning. I'll be here Thursday. Tomorrow is the big day, the Barcelona game. My starting 11 video for the Barca game will be going out at lunchtime today, hopefully within the hour. Make sure you leave a comment on that as to your starting 11 and your prediction. Big up to everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Gave you all the updates. I'll be back tomorrow.